Designing your own front wheels for printing in the 3D printer is a relatively simple task, as you may be able to gauge from the lack of complexity in the tree over here. It's a relatively simple task. Once we understand how to use the shaft command, which many of you have used already, and also we must get our head around the specifications that we're working to. So here's the specs. The front wheel diameter that can be no less than 32 and no more than 37, and I expect that you will understand quite well what diameter is about. So that's the finished wheel. This one here is the width of the wheel at the surface contact point, which I think is illustrated quite well in this picture. So to get started, we'll go New, and we'll go down and find Part, OK. Make sure all of these boxes are unchecked to keep things simple, and we can start sketching. So I choose the shaft command, I choose a plane to sketch on. It doesn't really matter which plane we sketch on, in this instance perhaps the YZ. And now I'm going to choose the profile tool, which is the easiest one for drawing these shapes. So I start with my first anchor point is on that coincidence between the planes. So I click there, I'm going to go up and across on orthodox angles and across. The dimensions don't really matter at the moment, this is way too big. Now see this next anchor point, I would like that to coincide with this other one here, because that's going to help me later on. I come down, and my last line, make sure that when you bring this back to the start that you coincided on top of the beginning anchor so that you have a closed shape. So I click on there, and now I have a closed shape. Now in order to enact the shaft command, the last thing I need to do is I need to turn one of these lines into an axis. So we can create a shaft around any one of these, but we have to nominate which is going to be the axis. So I'm going to choose this one here and choose this axis command. Yes, I'm sure. And now if I were to exit out of here, we start to get something that looks a fair bit like a front wheel, but it's way too big. So what we're going to have to do is go back in and start to dimension some of these things. So if we have a look at this other one here, here's an example of the dimensioning that might be applicable to one which is legal. So important dimensions, so this 3, that's my surface contact area right there. This 16, once I've rotated the shaft through 360 degrees, that 16 will give me an overall diameter of 32. So this is a smaller size which is legal. And this 4 will become 8 when it's rotated, and that will enable me to drill a hole for the axle to go inside the wheel. So if I go back to my own wheel, I need to start dimensioning this. So I'm going to choose this one, and we'll make that 3. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to make that 4. This one here, we'll probably keep that fairly small too. I think in the other drawing it was 2. And this one here, we'll also make that quite small, 2. Now let's get in and have a bit of a look at what we've got here. So we need to constrain from there back to there, and I'm going to make that 17. So now if I exit out of there, I've got a front wheel. Well, not quite. If I put a hole in the centre of it, I've got a front wheel. So we could have a solid wheel like this. So now to put a hole through here, I'm going to choose the hole command. And if I choose that plane there, so what have I got? I've got the ZX plane. So if I go ZX, and I'm going to make the diameter, this is important, 3.2 millimeters. And I'm going to make this up to next. So let's have a bit of a look. Alright. okay. And one last thing, just which will help to make your wheel nice and strong, I'm thinking we might fillet this. So if I go fillet, we're going to keep it fairly small. I'm going to choose that surface there and that surface there, and there we go. There's the basis for your front wheel.